Yo, what's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression podcast, brought to you by MSOTD Rocks, where rock and metal thrive. And we've got a rock band on for you today that you guys are really going to enjoy. So this is part 2 of right now 3 parts to a series where we interviewed Kill the Lights last week, and because of that, one of the guys is like, hey, you guys want to interview a couple other bands? We have a chance. Here's your names, and this is number 2 of that list. And coming from from Orange County, California, we've got Greg, the bass player for the band Joyous Wolf. We've got this hard driving rock and roll sound with some blues, soul, alt rock feel to it, and I think you're really gonna like it. So sit back, relax, get your popcorn ready, and let's go! Yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression podcast. On our previous episode, I got to interview James of Kill the Lights, and through the person that helped us set this up, he's like, hey, I've got a couple other bands you might want to check out that if you'd like to, sit down, listen to music, and potentially interview them, let me know. We can set something up. But I was like, you know what, Tim? You haven't steered me wrong yet, so let's give it a shot and see what happens. And this is the first one he sent me after I was listening to their sound. I was just like, yeah, Tim, is there any way you can get these guys on as soon as possible? Because this sound was awesome. So coming to us from the band Joyous Wolf, please welcome the bassist, Greg Braccio. Wait, did I already mess that up again?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm always going to mess up something in the podcast, so that was it.
I think I kind of jinxed it. I'll take the credit for that.
That's all right. Well, but Greg, first off, welcome to Chord Progression podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. I was gonna say thanks for having me, but I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But oh well, that's usually how this stuff kind of goes. So, yeah. So Greg, I want to start out with something I usually have a lot of people do, which is like an introduction for themselves. So what I want you to do is say your name and don't butcher it like I did. I assume you wouldn't, but I mean, you never know. You might have jinxed yourself
I've had enough practice, I think.
Yeah, what you do in the band, and then I always love doing this, going all like middle school, high school, like intro week to college, like a little fun fact about yourself. But I always like to hear like the wackiest things ever. So I've heard things like someone just became a dad. I've heard things like someone was the biggest YouTuber in Sweden before PewDiePie came around. People have given me their Tinder bios. Like I've heard a bunch of wacky stuff. So if you can top any of those, go for
it. Okay. All right. Well, I'm Greg Braccio. I play bass guitar in the band Joyous Wolf. I believe it's been 5.5 years roughly now. Fun fact, actually, the drummer in our band, Robert, I went to high school with him. I've been friends with him since I was like 16, 17 or so. They actually had a different guy in the band when they started. And fun fact is that I was still friends with him after high school, and I actually went to their first show just to like support him. And then I think 3-4 months later, I ended up joining. So it was kind of weird just being there for like their first show, not thinking I would ever be involved in that necessarily. So
I was gonna say you'd be surprised with sometimes how that happens, because I've heard different stories in the podcast. Well, with bands like, oh yeah, like members came together and they joined bands all because they wanted to like they just saw a show one time and all of a sudden something like that happened, or they saw a show, went on a drinking binge with one of the members of the band, and like 2 months later, all of a sudden they're like, hey, we need someone. Can you do it? And it's just, okay, we'll give it a shot. Why not? And all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom. Now they're in the band.
Pretty much exactly how it went. They just called me up like, hey, you want to drum? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's see what happens.
Just walk in, just like, okay, just play a little bit. And all of a sudden they're just like, yes, we need you.
Pretty much.
That's never a bad way to go about it. So this started all back in, I think when I looked at the whole history of the band to try and get like a little background on it, this started back in 2014, correct?
Yeah, so before I joined, they started like very late 2014, and I joined early to mid 2015. So I guess I'm saying 5.5 years of just me. It's really 6 altogether.
It's really 6 altogether, but more than 90% of that time has you involved in it. Just you, and technically you can say you were in it from the start because, hey, you were at that show. You were in support.
Yeah, I went to their first show ever.
What was was their first show ever kind of like in like just like a small venue, like a bar venue or like a very small music hall, or what was the venue like, if you remember?
It was a very small, kind of almost gross venue that is now a marijuana dispensary. So there you go.
Well then, I mean, technically they can say they played at a marijuana dispensary, but then you got to put before it was a marijuana dispensary on there. Just, as a little disclaimer, it's like, well, who'd go in there and just play a show there? But then again, thinking about it, I mean, that would definitely be like a whole entire like Willie Nelson kind of vibe thing. Just play a show at a dispensary.
I just read an article about the other day about him like passing it on his tour bus or something, just for free.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's Willie Nelson. He's like, when I had a lot of friends, like it's like the list of like people that like you'd want to smoke weed with. It's like everyone had like more people that are around today. It's like, but the two top consistent people were Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson. Just like, okay, you're gonna go with the classics as like your number one and number two. I can easily respect that.
Yeah, right.
So after you joined the band, and then I was taking a look at some of the history of it, and it seems like you guys started picking up some traction, especially with your cover of Mississippi Queen, because right now that is your most played track on Spotify. So I'm assuming that was like the big thing that kind of like got you guys some notoriety, got you guys some notice from different record companies, and just because I also saw you guys sign with Roadrunner Records in 2018, so that seemed like that was kind of like the catalyst of basically the, hey guys, Joyous Wolf is here. What about it?
Yeah, we actually did that after. That was like one of the first things we did after signing, along with like a separate single.
Interesting. So like, what was the decision to cover Mississippi Queen for? Because that doesn't necessarily seem like a song that would be covered a lot, especially more in the mainstream these days. However, it is a song that every time someone hears that intro riff, it's just, exactly what song it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why besides that, we're not really too interested in covers. I mean, at least like recording them. But yeah, that one was like, it's not under the radar. Like it's known, but it's not, like you said, what something you'd expect. So we were happy to do it. It's a good song, a good riff that most people know.
Yeah, it's not like you're covering like "Don't Stop Believin'" or something like that. It's like the two songs think that'd be like, yeah,
something like a little less predictable.
I think like the two songs would be like completely like not very predictable, especially for bands around this era of time that would be covering kind of one being Mississippi Queen and another one being Ram Jam's Black Betty, just because it's just exactly what song it is from the start, but you don't expect anyone to cover that just because it just doesn't sound like anything that would really vibe with like the sights and sounds of like 2019, 2020.
Yeah, well, the neat thing is, I mean, surprisingly, just obviously it's a fairly old song now. Like a lot of people are like, oh, what did you guys write the song about? It's like, that's not our song. So in a way, it's introducing the song to a lot of newer people, newer audiences, which is kind of neat.
Clearly, they never played Guitar Hero 2 because I'm pretty sure it was on Guitar Hero 2. I still remember my brother playing. I was just sitting there, just like, okay, is it my turn? And all of a sudden, I just start playing like YYZ by Rush and just failing right about the solo. I'm just like, ugh. But I always wanted to listen to it because I mean it was such a cool song. So I'm like, yeah, we'll play that. And also, it's like
that's the game that got me into music for sure. I had 3. I didn't own 2.
I owned
3.
2, 3, and World Tour.
That got me into like, what was the last one?
World Tour, so that would have been the 4th one. So it was 2, 3, and 4 that I had.
Okay, nice.
So that's what got you into music?
Yes, I mean, for the most part, I grew up listening to my parents' music, which was a lot of. I mean, it was still kind of in the classic rock vein, a lot of 70s, like you said, Journey, Boston, AC/DC, stuff like that. But when I played that game, that introduced me to so many bands that I still like today. But it was one of those things where like I loved the game, but it was like, no, I want to do the real thing.
Yeah, understandable words. Like for me, it's like I love the game, but all of a sudden it's like when I wanted to do the real thing, I decided, hey, let's instead of actually playing guitar, let's grab some drums instead. I think I've been drumming since I was like 10. All of a sudden, Guitar Hero 2, I got it when I was like 11 or 12. So I'm like, okay, this is awesome. All of a sudden, by the time I'm 14, I'm just like, I could either play drums or go play soccer in high school. I could do either or. Right. And as it stands right now, I mean, it clearly seems like I kind of missed my calling because now I'm doing this instead of doing something with soccer. So I was like, maybe I kind of missed my call on that. However, still worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing I still remember about Guitar Hero was it's just because it was one of the things that got me introduced to so many bands as well. Because like yourself, like I grew up listening to the stuff that my mom and dad would always listen to, especially my dad. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking like a lot of Van Halen, ZZ Top, like hair metal, like Poison, nice. Journey's in there, Queen. His favorite band, even though he barely ever played it for us, which I don't know why, was ELO. So I'm like, He still doesn't really play it around when I'm around. I'm like, what the heck, Dad? Like, you don't think I can
Really?
get down with some ELO? Come on, man.
Can't handle ELO.
Yeah, but all of a sudden it's just, especially like as the Guitar Hero 3 specifically that I remember this was because like I started getting into some of the heavier stuff. I'm like, okay, when are we gonna get to some heavier stuff? And all of a sudden Section 7 came around, and then all of a sudden it was like Before I Forget by Slipknot, Stricken by Disturbed, which was what got me into heavier music, got me into Disturbed.
Me too. Yeah, exactly.
I've got Disturbed. I've got like multiple Disturbed things on my wall over here. Then it was like
Nice.
3s and 7s by Queens of the Stone Age and Knights of Sidonia by Muse. And I still remember it, and I still remember playing those, and they were tough to play. Especially I couldn't even play my expert. That's like I kept trying. I'm like, I can't get my hand to either like move over to that yellow or that orange button enough, or I can't slide it quick enough because I don't have the biggest hands in the world. So it's just like, and especially at 12 years old, I'm like, ah.
Well, everyone knows the crowning achievement of 3 was the Dragon Force song.
Oh, Through the Fire and Flames. Oh,
yeah.
I still remember it was like because the first time when you beat the game, like you could play it, and it was like in the whole entire like campaign mode of it, but you couldn't fail on it just because it was like kind of like, okay, you can't really fail on this. They're not gonna let you know. But if you tried it, I don't think I know I passed it on easy and medium. I couldn't pass it on hard and expert. There was no way in hell I was going to be able to do that. Just like, I'm
pretty sure you get arthritis if you kept playing that song on that game.
I still remember like going on YouTube. I mean, this is get back in like 2007, 2008. Like there were like early YouTubers of just like, there was this one kid that's all he would do was just play like all the crazy songs you could think of and just hit them perfectly. I'm just thinking.
The 7-year-old kid on Ellen or something that was playing specifically the Dragon Force song, like without even looking at the TV or something ridiculous like that.
I wish my brain had the capacity to remember all those notes instead of just, like having to remember, okay, what bill do I have to pay today? What do I have to get from the grocery store today? Like, why can't we just go back to time of where the only responsibility we had was, I'm going to learn Dragon Force Through the Fire and Flames on Guitar Hero, and I'm going to learn it so well that I'm not going to have to look in the TV to play it.
Yeah, simpler times.
Simpler times. But clearly the simpler times are no longer around, where you went from playing just on a plastic guitar to actually playing a real bass guitar in a real band that's kicking ass right now.
Pretty much.
Yeah. What was that?
I think I still have that game somewhere. Probably up in the basement or something.
I feel like after this, you're gonna like just go down the basement, like break it out, and be like, okay, now I gotta start playing this again just for fun.
I might do it. Do it.
But going back into Joyous Wolf, like I was taking a look at some more of the stuff that you guys have done as well, and taking a look at some of the tours that you've been on and like who you supported. And I saw some names that really stuck out to me. Of course, one being Deep Purple, but the other being Slash. Of course, everyone knows who Slash is. But my question with Slash is: was this just Slash solo, or was this Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Co-Conspirators?
With Miles Kennedy and the Co-Conspirators.
Oh, what was that like?
Incredible. Just because it was incredible. It was pretty surreal. I mean, it was only, I think, we first opened for them. Trying to think back, it's been a while. It was like November of 2018. We did like a one-off with them in New York. So that was a pretty neat experience. And then they had us back last July for like 6 or 7 shows or whatnot. And I think almost all of them were in Canada. So that was even more neat.
So they have you support them for a one-off show in New York, and then they have you support them on a little run through Canada. 2 completely different years, mind you. So that's got to say something to the point where Slash and Miles Kennedy wanted you guys to support them on 2 separate occasions.
I guess so. Yeah, it was a great time, honestly.
I mean, you can't beat that because I only got to see I'll say this, fortunately and unfortunately, I've only ever been able to see Miles Kennedy play live once, and that was before the whole world went to shit this year, because they played in Milwaukee with, of course, Alter Bridge, and I think Clint Lowry was opening for him. I just kept thinking, with Miles Kennedy, it always makes me laugh just because when he was up there, not singing, just talking, he sounds like a guy that should be working in an IT department at some like corporation. But then he goes up there and sings. It's just like, okay, that is definitely not the IT guy.
Right. He is pretty mellow though. He's a really nice guy. But they played like 2-hour shows every night, and it was like perfect, clean, like the whole time every night. Unbelievable.
I think you play 2-hour shows every night singing like that and just not
I have
miss
no
a
clue.
beat.
It takes care of his voice, that's for sure.
It's like, and that's why you're not the singer. That's why you're the bassist, so you don't have to do that.
Right?
You just got to make sure your hands aren't broken.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was with my girlfriend. We're gonna have a couple of beers, and I made the very, very dumb mistake of not looking to see if it was a twist off or just pop it off. And I'm like putting all this force into it, and eventually it came off, and it took some of the glass with it, and it like sliced a bit into my finger. It's fine now, but
Ooh.
I gotta put it in there. And that's one of the fingers that I play with, so I was a bit scared for a moment.
Say, but it must not be too bad right now, though. If you're able to still play with it and just kind of go like,
oh yeah, it got better in like 10 days or so. But I mean, at first I was like, I might need stitches. It was pretty bad. Got pretty deep in it.
That is not bad, but I mean that's a true call of when it comes to getting into the music and also enjoying music as well. Where it's just you get an injury and you just like, you know what, just gonna power through it. No big deal. Just gonna make sure it gets taken care of, but I'm not gonna be taken out too long by it.
Yeah. I was fortunate it was only that long. It didn't get any worse than that.
And not only that, but I mean also the fact that it happened during a time when there's not really any shows going on right now, or if there are, they're very, very small.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened right now too. Actually, I think the Deep Purple tour, we must have been in Colorado or somewhere. It was really cold, and I don't know, playing extra hard, but I blistered both of my fingers. And it was just like, I think eventually I had to tear them out. I know some bass players actually like super glue or like hot glue their fingertips so they can find when that happens. I was debating doing that, but I was a little scared I was going to do it wrong. So that was not good. I'm going to take better care of them.
At that point, you just go up to a microphone live on stage. You just go, I got blisters on me fingers. And you're going to get the whole crowd to just go nuts.
Would they? I don't know. Sounds a little underwhelming when you put it that way.
I don't know. I mean, just watch them. Have you ever seen the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
I don't think so.
All right, well, there's a scene where there's this one guy, he's about to like commit suicide, jump off a ledge, and Jim Carrey runs up there to try and quell the situation, try and get him down, but he doesn't know how to do it. So all of a sudden, Jim Carrey grabs the guitar and starts playing. I can't remember the name of the song, but it's by Third Eye Blind. But it's not sure. Semi-Charmed Life. I'm gonna see if I can look it up just real quick.
Go for it.
It's gonna kill me if I don't remember. Jumper. That's it.
Okay.
So he's playing that, and all of a sudden, like as the guy's like slowly edging back towards the window, he grabs him and throws him back into the room, and all of a sudden just looks at me, just strums one more string, and the crowd goes nuts. And he just looks at the guy, and just goes, "I got blisters on me fingers." And it's just like the whole epicness of that. Like if you go up and you're just gonna play some incredible bass riff, and all of a sudden just like say that afterwards, I mean, people are gonna just enjoy it. It's just gonna give this whole entire extra experience of like, holy crap, he played so hard that he busted up his fingers for us.
Right.
All right, rock on, man.
People always overreact to slapping. That's an easy way out of that too.
Oh yeah, that is. It gets slapped. It's just like, oh shit. But I'm also one of those people when I see that too. It's just like, yes, just because it kind of has this extra epicness to it.
It does, yeah.
But I mean, can't always do that though, because all of a sudden you're just gonna keep slapping the bass. So it's like you're gonna get to a point where it's like, okay, can you do something? So you just gotta add something else in there too during a live show. Unless if the crowd's like, unless you're playing something like super duper heavy, which I know is not really your guys' style, but you're playing something like super duper heavy, super duper fast paced, and people are crashing into each other, like I would, because that's just kind of what I do at shows, and I find it fun. Yeah. So it's like if you just constantly slapping slapping the slapping the bass at that point, it's just like you're just amping everyone up at that point. But all of a sudden you get some like cool funky bass riff in there, just like, ooh, okay, here we go.
Ooh.
Yeah. So enough with my crazy stories about or crazy ideas about blisters on me fingers and just yelling that.
I'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, keep it in mind.
There'll be a moment for it.
Yeah. How about we get into some of your guys' music, shall we? Because I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about the music. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. So the first one I want to talk about is, of course, one of your more recent singles that before this you said it came out on a very interesting day, which is the song Odyssey. And did you say it came out on your birthday?
Yeah. That was not my choice, believe it or not.
So whose choice was it?
I guess the record label, management, whoever else is in there.
Or did they just like look at a time and they're like, okay, we're gonna pick it on this day, and all of a sudden, like later that day, they're flipping through. It's like, oh, wait a minute, let me check this out. Is that's Greg's birthday? Yeah, we're gonna put it out that day. We're just gonna surprise him with it.
Maybe not.
So initially, like, who is the main writer behind the song out of your group?
I don't know if there really is necessarily. I mean, it could be any one of us bringing a riff. Most time it's the four of us just jamming and playing together, and then something will usually come out of that. I don't really remember what happened with that song. One of us just started playing like that chord progression, and it actually started out way different, and then just sort of evolved into that, which is usually how it goes.
That's kind of how it should go, though, just because as you're doing that, what's going to end up happening is you're just going to end up like starting to see things that work, starting to see the things that don't work, and maybe a direction that you thought the song was going to take is not the direction that it's going to end up actually taking. Because if you try and go down that route, it's like, okay, this might not necessarily fit for what we're going for. But if you try and force the issue, then you're going to get something that might come out subpar, but all of a sudden you kind of let it flow. It's like, okay, we want to work off, we started out with this chord progression and we like this, and this is the kind of direction we want to go in. However, it's not necessarily going that way, but if we let it go the way that we just kind of let it flow, let it go that way, all of a sudden you're going to build something that has this very natural feel to it, has this very natural flow to it, that all of a sudden it's like everything seems to fall right into place with it.
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes. I mean, we all just try and be kind of open-minded. I mean, I don't think any song should you be thinking too hard about it. Really, it should just kind of come out naturally. I think, just like you said.
Yeah,
that's pretty much how it went.
I was gonna say, if you think too hard on a song, then all of a sudden you're gonna end up coming up with something that might be a little bit of a mess, or you might come up with something that's gonna be 10, 15 minutes long, and it feels like you're gonna feel like Maynard James Keenan writing it.
Right. That Fear Inoculum stuff.
Yeah, where the shortest song was like 4.5 minutes and the longest one was 15.
Right.
And I think the average length of song of like was in that album was like 11 minutes long.
Was it really?
I think it was.
To it, I don't know, maybe just once or twice, but yeah, they were very, very long songs.
Because I tried listening to a couple. I listened to it like twice the day it came out, and then one more time like the next day, just to kind of make sure I had my ideas down right on it. But it was I'm not gonna lie, it was just a tough one to get through just because of how long everything was. And it's just after time, it's like, okay, is this the same song or is this a different song or what's going on?
A lot of them sounded like multiple ideas or songs kind of put into one. I don't know. It sounded like Maynard had time to go get like coffee and donuts in the meantime to come back by the end of the song and keep singing again.
I'll say, I wouldn't be surprised if during a live show he actually did that. Just walked out, just grabbed coffee, grabbed a couple of donuts, and just like came out on stage with a little like. With like instead of like a Starbucks cup, just like have like a little have like the old Tool logo on it. Just put it down. All of a sudden, have a donut.
Makes his own wine. Maybe he'll make his own coffee too.
Oh yeah, that's right. maybe just bring out a glass of wine and just sit down on stage, just pour it, just start drinking it, and people are gonna be looking like, what the hell's going on, Maynard? What are you doing? It's like, yeah, I've got another like 3 minutes before I have to say something again. We're good.
Right.
All right, but jumping back into Odyssey, the one thing I was always trying to figure out is the meaning behind these songs as well, because one thing that also helps I've seen with songs, especially not only ones that I've talked to bands about, but also have listened to myself and really connected with, is when a meaning behind a song matches the feeling that the song has and the vibe that the song has, and how it matches up with everyone's like what your people have gone through personally and how they relate to music. So I'm always interested in hearing that. So what was really the meaning behind Odyssey?
I mean, I don't have the best idea of it, to be honest. I know Nick, our vocalist, would have a much more in-depth response to that, but it was definitely mostly supposed to be around the actual like story behind it of Odyssey or Odysseus, whatever it is. I know it's I don't know. It's hard to say, honestly.
I was gonna say
it's more about the story.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I was a little interested to see how like what it was about, but I thought it was about potentially two things. One was because I've of course seen Odyssey. I'm thinking between the Iliad and the Odyssey, because there was the Iliad, which was the whole story about the Trojan War, fall of Troy, Trojan horse, that kind of stuff. But then the Odyssey was, I think it was Odysseus returning home and all like the struggles and everything that he went through going through that just to get back home, like all the different places he had to go and visit. But it wasn't like him having to go and visit them. But I kind of looked at it's like, because my second thought was, and it kind of intertwine, and I'll kind of intertwine it both, because my second thought was the struggle of making a decision to like end a relationship or break up with someone, and that struggle is because you're going into the unknown, and kind of matching up with the story of Odysseus, which is he's trying to go home to his wife, but he's going through all these different trials and tribulations that are the unknown as well. So it's kind of like a fear of going into that unknown.
Yeah, honestly, your explanation was pretty much what I was trying to say, so you got it better than me. No, that's exactly it, though. It's just the idea of...
Look at me go.
Yeah, it's really just the general idea of having any kind of struggle, whether it's like your own personal life or relationships, and seeing through the unknown and sort of getting to the other side in a way. But I mean, that can be interpreted to anyone's personal lives as well.
Yeah, and it's any song. It's just there's songs where it's like, okay, I've taken a look at them, and I'm trying to think of a good example of one where I think it was one of the new Manson songs that came out with. There was something that he was talking about where it was just like, or was it a Manson song, or was it, I can't remember who it was one of the new Fit for a King songs. That was my bad. That's a new single. Okay. It was one of the singles on their latest album. It's like, I looked at it and it had this whole entire meaning behind it that I've heard in a different song. And when it came down to just like my personal experience behind it, I liked this other one more by Polaris. And the only reason was because I just connect, like, with what I had gone through personally, I connected with that sound so much more than I connect with the sound that Fit for a King came out with. However, Fit for a King still absolutely killed it on the song with the South. So it's like, if I take the meaning out of it, it's like, it's still a really good song. If I add the meaning to it, it's still good, but I just don't connect to it the same way. And that's also a thing of personal opinion, personal taste, and also personal experience as well. So that's one extra thing that you can always think about too, how people are going to connect with your songs in a much stronger way because they've gone through certain things, and these songs give that tangible feeling to an event or a period in time in their life that's really hard to explain.
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing about music is the artist could have maybe a very specific intention or meaning of the song, and then their audience could take a totally different interpretation of that and apply it to their own lives. But that's the neat thing about music is anyone can interpret how they want to.
Yeah, and then the craziest thing too is it's just like, especially as an artist, you might have one whole idea of what the song means to you, and someone else in the audience might have a completely different idea of what that song means to them. But it's kind of the end point of how this song holds a special place for you is what connects you to the fans at the same time as well, connects the fans to you at the same time as well. So it just really has this whole connecting factor to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And when I was going through the song, like, one thing I did like about it was, like, especially once you get into the verse, because you guys had this, like, classic rock vibe to the whole entire song, but it had something else, like, mixed in. It reminded me of, like, 90s alternatives in a little bit of a way, because the drums were slower. They played a more unique riff at the end of each part of the verse, which I thought was pretty cool. And the drums kept this, like, consistent beat throughout the whole entire thing. And then, like, even as you went on, like, all of a sudden during the song, it's like at the beginning of the verse, okay, the volume is a little bit lower, but as time goes on, it's a slow progression to increase the volume in order to really get to a transitional point where you get to the pre-chorus and to the chorus at the same time as well. So you're building up a transition into this very simplistically, but also very naturally at the same time, which I thought was pretty cool.
Pretty much exactly what we wanted to go for, and like you said, it just felt very natural for it to be that way.
It did, and then when you kind of go into when you get into more of the pre-chorus, I thought that, like, 90s feel to the whole entire song, especially more 90s rock and 90s alt rock, it stood out even more because the pacing picked up, and the rock music influence in there had this more lighter vibe to it. Like, the song wasn't necessarily taking itself too seriously at that point. Like, it was just kind of flowing along with whatever thing was going on. I thought that was more very reminiscent, more like, again, like that little bit of, like, later 90s rock. Like, again, think like, I mean, I'm not gonna say it sound like something like Third Eye Blind or like Sugar Ray, but it kind of had that same feeling where it wasn't taking itself too seriously. So it had this more, like, kind of like what you did in the verses when you kind of slowly increase that volume and kind of transition into it. It had this very smooth feel to it that you went into something like this and then jumped into the chorus right after.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people, I think, pick up on usually a mix of, like, I would say 70s and 90s ish. That's usually the two sort of decades in general that kind of blend into that sound. So pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, when you guys got into the chorus, one thing that I saw was, like, it was kind of similar to the pre-chorus, but it just had this more melodic sense to it, and I could easily get where this was going because, again, with the fact of how everything transitioned through that verse to the pre-chorus to the chorus, how everything transitioned, it worked so smoothly that I really liked that idea. The one thing I'll say about it, and we just talked about it with kind of like how we match up with certain songs, is just like kind of with the sound, especially with kind of the idea that I had for like how I relate to certain things. Like it just didn't match up with what I was expecting. However, listening to the song, it's like there's many other people that are going to listen to the song, and it's going to be like, oh man, this sound matched up exactly to the experience that I felt like I went through, that I felt they went through back at a time, and they're really relating to this. So, because again, like that's for me, it's like that's why I like heavier, harder music, because it's just all the sounds relate to certain people. So I'm not I'm not saying that this is bad anyway. I really liked how this song ended up turning out. It's just the way that I relate to stuff. It's just different way, and I just wanted to give you that context as well, so it's not like you're thinking, is he just like trying to backtrack and everything? No, I'm just trying to give you the context.
No, I
how my
get
mind
you.
works.
No, I appreciate that.
Because I've seen other people too where it's like, oh, this song sucks. Like, well, why does it? And it's just some of these songs, like they're constructed very well. You just don't necessarily relate to them as much as you do to other ones. So if you like it, you just don't relate to it. Just call it out, and it's gonna be like, okay, people are gonna say, you know what? I'm going to check out this song. It might be incredible. Then I might really connect to it. But even though they didn't relate to it, but they're explaining it, why don't we try it out? And let's see what happens. Because I can see there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to be like, okay, let's check out Odyssey. Let's see what it's like. And all of a sudden you're going to get this feeling of like, yeah, this is awesome. I want to keep listening to more and more and more and more and more.
Nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think, especially earlier on, I think we were kind of heavier in some ways too. So I think that was also just maybe not knowingly a way of us like sort of trying to venture into different dynamics and not always do that, I suppose. So maybe that's where that's coming from.
And that's one thing that always makes sense too, is just if sometimes, you're going to want to try different things. You're not going to want to create the same song and the same sound over and over and over again. You're going to want to try and like, okay, I'm going to try and mess with maybe this different kind of sound. I'm going to try and mess with this little different kind of style. I mean, wear a shirt that says Popular Monster from Falling in Reverse. I mean, take a look at, honestly, take a look at like a guy like Ronnie Radke. All of a sudden it's like, okay, you're going to work with something that's post-hardcore. You're going to work with a rock ballad. Okay, and now you're completely going like unclean screams on this. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, if you're always.
That's how new things happen though. I mean, they're unprecedented, and you just kind of, like we were talking about before, just natural and go with the flow. And that's where things you wouldn't normally expect to happen come from, which is neat.
Exactly, because all of a sudden it's like you never know, you're gonna get some like, and I'll bring up, God, this is another example. I'll bring up another one of my favorite bands with Ice Nine Kills. Because you take a look at the Silver Scream album, and it's heavy through and throughout. Then you get to a song like A Grave Mistake, which has this more hard rock melodic feel to it. It's rather clean. It's just, now this doesn't make like a sense as like the rest of the album had at this point. But all of a sudden you listen to it, just holy shit, is this beautiful? And you're just like, okay,
yeah,
can easily get that. And then you get something later on where all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it sounds like it's a circus. There are horns going everywhere. And it's like, okay, that's cool. That's cool the same way as well. But always one thing I see is when bands do a lot of this stuff and try and venture out into different areas, is one thing I always see when I think it works out versus when it doesn't, is when it works out, especially like kind of like what you guys did on this one, where there's a certain core feeling to a sound that each band has. Like there's a certain bass sound. And you're always playing off of that bass sound and adding different things to it, but that bass is always there. So you're not like going like, I'm going to play heavy metal, and all of a sudden now I'm going to play a country song. Like that doesn't necessarily vibe unless you like have like a heavy metal country mix. Now I can understand that, but if you just go blatantly just one to the other, doesn't necessarily make sense. But with you guys, you kind of still have this like hard driving rock and roll feel with like a little bit more of like a melodic sense, like has like a little bit of blues, a little bit of soul to it. But then there's also, I've seen you guys venture off a little more of an alternative rock, more 90s rock kind of style as well. So there's definitely some experimentation in there, but especially when I'm going through some of the EPs that you had, going through the Odyssey single, and then going through, I want to make sure I get the name right because I don't want to butcher it again. Going through through the Place and Time LP, like you can totally tell like there's definitely a bass sound for Joyous Wolf that has this more, like I said, that more hard driving rock and roll sound with some blues influence in there and some soul influences in there. But then you're also able to kind of jump off in a couple of different ways, like some more 70s rock, some more 90s alternative vibes, some more alternative rock vibes. So you're able to do a lot of different things with your sound, which is really cool.
Thank you. I mean, that's pretty much all we're trying to achieve. We don't want to be too like one-dimensional. I wouldn't want to only be sounding like 90s alternative or only like 70s classic rock. We want to, I mean, that's what we're always trying to improve on, is just having a good mix of all those things, I guess.
No, I mean, even take a look at one of the guys you've toured with, like with Slash. He was with Guns N' Roses and played that more like that '80s heavy hair metal kind of style rock, especially with Appetite for Destruction. But then now
Right,
you
right.
kind of go on. And he's working with Miles Kennedy, and it's just you're still gonna get that same Slash feel on the guitar, but you're
Yeah,
gonna
it's
get
always the signature thing's always there.
but you're gonna get this completely different vibe in the whole entire sound because you're also working with the guy who has more of this like hard rock, southern rock flair to him. So you're
Mhm.
gonna you're gonna see something, and I'm not gonna say it keeps you relevant. But what I'm gonna say is it keeps you as a songwriter, and it keeps you as a musician kind of fresh in a way. And I'm not saying fresh in like, oh, fresh in the minds of people. It keeps you kind of on your toes. It keeps you fresh in the creative process and keeps those creative juices flowing to see, okay, maybe we're gonna write a song and all of a sudden it feels like it's gonna have this different kind of influence in there. Maybe it has a little bit more of like a funk influence in there. Maybe it has a little bit more of like that like 80s rock. Maybe it has some more of a hard rock influence in there. Who knows? But just let the songs happen naturally and then you get something great. That's how it works.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't really overthink those kind of things. When you start overthinking, it just starts feeling like too calculated and like it doesn't sound. You can kind of tell when something doesn't sound as genuine, like someone thought too hard to try and make something sound a certain way or whatnot. So I mean, that's hopefully working so far for us. We're gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, and then like also probably from that you can attest to this as well because you just kind of said that with like as also as a music fan where you're listening to bands that you like and listen to other bands as well. Like you might be able to tell when it's like okay, someone's trying a little bit too hard to try to make a song sound specifically like something, or it just doesn't seem like it happened naturally or was forced, or even like maybe like some things I've heard from people is like okay though, or other stories that you've heard that might be famous like okay, you know the record companies are constantly trying to push a different sound on a band. It's like well that's not really what that's not really what they want to write about, but all of a sudden it's like okay they keep pushing all of a sudden it's like okay you kind of change your sound up to appease what the record company wants to do, then all of a sudden it's like oh why did the album not do well? Well, it just didn't sound like you guys, it didn't sound like it came from the heart, it didn't sound like it was authentic in a way.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a real thing that happens. So
Which honestly sucks just because it's you can always tell when music is just forced and you can tell when it comes naturally from the heart, and most times does it come naturally, especially how I feel like within rock and metal and all the subgenres. Yeah, most of the time I feel like it comes authentically because you can tell, you can hear, you can feel the real emotion behind it, not only the vocals but just also how the song is constructed with the guitars, with the bass, with the drums, with some electronic influence there. You can really feel that these sounds are putting out the vibe that this like whatever the song is talking about, whatever the event is, that's what it felt like.
totally. And I mean, at the end of the day, like people are either going to connect with it or not, and you can't force something like that. So if people like something, they like it, and they connect with it, then they do.
Oh, absolutely. And then back to Odyssey, just because kind of wrap up with Odyssey. One thing I want to ask about this is so because it's been out for a couple of months right now. What has been the overall reception from not only the fans of Joyous Wolf right out of the gate, but also people that have started picking up the song about after the first couple of months of its release? What's been like that new fan perspective like?
I mean, I would say it's been positive overall. I mean, I think the song in general kind of has that sort of positive, uplifting feeling, which I like. And I think hopefully most other people like too. It's kind of funny though, because recently we've been starting to get some radio play and whatnot, and they actually played our other song, Mother Rebel, because as they described it, sort of fits the mood of like the world right now currently, which I completely get.
But that's one thing, kind of just like, especially with radio stations, it's if it's gonna fit the mood, yeah, I totally understand that that's what they're gonna end up going towards, just because it's like, okay, everyone's kind of feeling like they're tired of this whole entire thing after 6 months. They're cooped up, especially, and then everything that's also going on in the world, especially in the United States, with everything that's happened since, well, March, honestly. It's like, I could say as many things I wanted to, but it's like every couple of days, like, okay, add one more thing to the list, add one more thing to the list.
Right.
So
still time for more, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, I mean, my bet that was on spontaneous combustion still hasn't happened yet, so I'm still waiting for that. I also have well, it looks like this one might not happen. I also have written down as a layover, Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl, beating the Detroit Lions, but I don't think that's gonna happen, unfortunately.
Nah.
But the
They're not.
The sad thing is I would end up rooting for Detroit in that one.
Just don't bet too much on it. I'll be all right.
No, last time I bet on football, I bet on 3 games and I lost all 3. So I'm like, nope, not doing that no more.
Not worth it. It's not worth it.
No, but what I figured out is like if I bet against my team, they end up winning. So I'm like, I should probably just bet against them.
So it's like a reverse psychology kind of thing.
Exactly. So it's kind of like with like a weird connection like with Mother Rebel. It's like, hey, you're gonna push Odyssey to be pushed on the radio. All of a sudden, it's like Mother Rebel comes out and everyone's like, oh wait. Yeah, this one definitely fits the time more. So it's like bad news, good news. Bad news, we're not gonna push Odyssey as much, but good news, we're gonna push your new song Mother Rebel a lot more. Sound good?
I mean, we're totally happy with it because actually Mother Rebel it's one of our older tracks, even though we're kind of like we sort of like re-released it just to like it's supposed to kind of coordinate with the radio play and whatnot, and just sort of the theme of what's going on and all that, I suppose. I mean, we even had someone tell us like, oh, we actually really like Odyssey. We actually would just rather do Mother Rebel right now because it's sort of more fitting the mood, I suppose. But we're actually really happy to have Mother Rebel being promoted because that was one of our earlier songs that kind of we wrote that maybe 4 years ago. That was one of the ones we wrote way before getting like signed or touring or anything. So it's kind of neat to see it still see the light of day despite all of that.
So it's kind of like you got something old for the fans to listen to that's out there. You got something new for the fans to listen to out there at the same time.
Exactly.
So then you just get those radio stations to play both at the same time, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we're getting the old feel, we're getting the new feel, and people are going to connect to one or the other or both, hopefully. So next thing you know, all of a sudden it's like, okay, take a look at the Joyous Wolf Spotify numbers. Okay, here they are, and all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 boom. Okay, they just keep going up and up and up. Alrighty, now they're in 6 figures. Okay, now they're getting into high 6 figures. All right, 7 figures. Let's do this.
That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I mean, we can hope at this point, just because you never know what the heck's going to happen during this time, especially with shows. No one really being able to play shows for the past over 6 months, except maybe if you're playing very, very small shows. Otherwise, everyone's doing live stream stuff, or everyone's doing just kind of releasing new music at the same time, well, just because, hey, what else is there to do right now?
Yeah, I've seen a couple like one-off smaller shows from other people in like the Midwest, and I'm starting to see more of the drive-in concert things, which I mean that'd be kind of cool if that picks up and more people start doing it, just to have something going on, especially just for the music industry, because I know music industry, from whether it's people like you or me or the crew people, like everyone's having a tough time with it. So
everyone is having a tough time with it, but one thing that I've kind of looked at it with is, okay, yeah, we're in this time where, okay, yeah, everything that we knew from as of like, go back to February from this year, everything that we had in mind for this year versus everything that ended up happening is completely changed. Like, there's nothing that we thought was going to happen. However, how I took a look at it was for myself, especially doing this, I thought, okay, so now we're in this time where I can't go to shows. I'm not going to festivals. I'm not going to, because I was going to go to Europe in September. So I'm like, okay, I was going to go do that, go see a bunch of different bands that I've interviewed from over there. I'm like, yeah, I'll go pick up a bunch of Italian metalcore. I'll pick up some alternative metal in the Netherlands. I'll go see some bands in like Austria. Yeah, I'll go do that. Yeah, of course, that didn't happen. But basically kind of looked at it was, okay, we're in this situation that we can't change right now. How can we make this the best situation possible? That was always my mindset. So I'm like, how can I go from where I am right now to where I want to be, but also do it in this completely different time? Like, how can I set myself apart? And
absolutely, that's the right mindset to have. Like, it's really all about perspective. The situation is going to be the same, but it depends how you act upon it. I mean, we were obviously same here. This is supposed to be our first time touring in Europe this last summer that just passed, so that was a bummer. But I mean, at the same time, like I think we've used this time efficiently just to hone our craft in more and write songs and whatnot. I'm sure a bunch of other artists are too. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of new music already coming out, or a bunch of albums coming out next year. But even for people not in music, like some people might be using this time to learn a new skill or trade or whatever it is. It just depends how you use the time, I suppose.
Yeah, so what did you guys do outside of the release of Odyssey, the re-release of Mother Rebel, and like basically, so outside of those 2 singles, what have you guys really been doing to make sure that you're making the most out of this time?
The only other thing we did recently some sort of like in-studio live stream live concert kind of thing. I think we had a few of the songs on some it's called QuakeCon, like a Twitch convention kind of thing. And then I think we're pretty soon we'll be releasing the rest of the concert on YouTube and whatnot. Other than that, really though, I mean, we've just been trying to write and practice and get better as much as we can.
So that's the thing. It's just always making sure you're taking this time and you're doing you're doing what you can to make sure that when you're able to get back out on the road and hopefully get back, hopefully like when 2021 happens, you guys are able to get over and tour in Europe, because I mean, if it was gonna be your first time touring Europe this year and all of a sudden it just, this whole entire virus kind of shut it down. Yeah, let's make sure you guys actually pick up on that, just due to the fact that this sucks. You guys should have been in Europe, man. What the hell?
Yeah, I know. It's a bummer, but I mean, it's affected everyone in different ways, so as long as we get back eventually.
Yeah. And then the kind of where you're bringing up with the drive-in concerts, where I like the idea behind them, but I like the short-term viability behind them. I hate the long-term viability of them. And the reason I say that is because, and this is coming from my perspective too, where short-term, you're going to be able to get out and actually get to see these bands perform live once again. And that's awesome, because who doesn't want to go out and see a concert right now? Like that, like it's something that kind of brings you back to normal. But then after a while, especially for someone like myself, where I love being in that crowd. I love being packed in there like in a can of sardines, and I'm sweating like crazy, because there's a video of me from last year at Riot Fest in Chicago seeing Rise Against, and it's just like during Swing Life Away, like I took a video of it, and it just literally looks like it literally looks like I was in a wave pool, but with my shirt on. Like, that's how drenched I was. And it's just like everyone's singing, kind of swaying around. Of course, it was Ken towards the end of the set, and then we had 2 more songs that everyone just basically went crazy and tried to kill each other in the pit, which was absolutely fun as all hell. Even though I had a black eye at that point already, so I'm like, let's go. But it's just like, I love doing that, and also like the mosh pits too. That's always my kind of style. And then when it comes to just like a more of like a, instead of like a more like a punk rock metalcore kind of show, like if I'm going like more something more hard rock, more classic rock, like just feeling that kind of vibe, but also being with people in the crowd at the same time as well. Like, I really miss that, and I'm really gonna want to do that, to the point where all of a sudden I might have to buy an old beater, so the point where all of a sudden like I can drive it into like a demolition derby style, when all of a sudden, I'm gonna go to a Kill Switch drive-in concert, gonna play the Signal Fire, I'm gonna want to just go crazy, and I'm gonna end up crashing into someone head on. It's like mosh pit time, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, I like the idea of the drive-in just for the sake of it, of not doing nothing. But even from like my perspective, like, it obviously a big part of concerts, whether it's the audience or the band, is the sort of energy that's being passed around, I guess, like feeding off each other kind of thing. And I'm trying to picture that with a drive-in, like, so at the end of the song, do all the cars like honk, or like what happens? Is it just silent because everyone's in their car, or like, I don't know. It seems weird.
I think we'll find out in the next couple of months, because I was taking a look online, trying to figure out like the bands they're having. I know Skillet's having a couple in October. Beartooth just announced one that's going to be in Ohio, so that would be those would be 2 very good ones to kind of get a whole perspective off of, because you got more of that like hard rock sense, but you also got more of that Christian rock base in there as well. You go to Beartooth, and it's just going to be insane energy throughout the whole entire show. So
I'm very aware of that.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting where all of a sudden it's like, what are the cars going to do? There's going to be massive honking horns. There are going to be people that get out of their cars and start like going crazy on top of them, jumping on the hood. All of a sudden, are people going to be like, after a while, screw this, and all of a sudden, like, there's going to be like a space in front, just kind of keep space between the band and the cars, and all of a sudden, there's going to be people going in there, just starting a mosh pit. I mean, who knows?
Maybe like those bumper cars, like at the theme parks and whatnot, just have people do a mosh pit that way. Sounds like a disaster, but sounds kind of fun.
Don't tempt me, Greg, because I'm gonna actually make that a thing.
It's not a bad idea.
Honestly, if you guys get a chance where all of a sudden like there's someone doing this, there's someone doing like a drive-in concert, they're just looking for they're looking for like a opening act. I was like, okay, we just need someone that's gonna fit the same vibe, but also get the crowd amped up right enough for when we go on stage, and just kind of keep that same flow going. Yeah, guys, pick up Joyous Wolf for that, because that's a good idea. So that is one of my shameless plugs for the day.
Nice.
So I'm hoping someone heard that.
Someone out there will.
someone out there better. And all of a sudden, if you guys get a call, it's like, hey, we're gonna do a drive-in show. We heard on a podcast that we should get you guys, so you want in. Just let me know, because I want to be like, we did it.
Oh yeah, you'll get the credit. Don't worry.
I mean, get the credit, or just hear that it worked. Honestly, that'd just be amazing. Just like, guys, it worked. Yes. That's all that matters to me, as long as it works.
Right.
Yeah, but outside of that, are you guys planning on doing Europe in 2021, or is it kind of up in the air right now, or what's going on?
Yeah, I think most of the European festivals we were supposed to do this year are already being rescheduled, and some of them are being reannounced now. I know we're going to be doing Download next year, which I'm very excited for. Forgetting the names of some of them. I think one of them is called Hellfest. Is that in Norway or France?
Hellfest? That sounds like Norway.
Yeah, it's one of them. It's one of the two, I believe. There's a third one that just came out. Hold on, I gotta find this.
So the reason why I think Hellfest has to be in Norway is just because my dad's side of the family is all Norwegian, and taking a look at my last name, which is purely Norwegian, the first 4 letters are HELL.
Very nice.
Yep.
Okay, I found it. The other one was Grasspop, and that's in Belgium.
Okay.
I think that there should be more probably coming out as time goes on, but I'm just glad to see. I'm sure most people are glad the lineups that were supposed to be this year are going to be, I would think, mostly the same for next year.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing around here as well with other bands I've talked to, with especially more music festivals around my neck of the woods here in Wisconsin, like Rock USA, Rock Fest. Haven't really heard anything about some other ones around, like a little bit further out, like Louder Than Life or like Sonic Temple, or like all the Danny Wimmer ones. I think there's the only ones I think I've heard from them were that they planned on doing, like what was it, like most of the same ones, especially the headliners. So if anyone's going to Aftershock out in California next year, yes, you still get MyChem. And that reminds me, Riot Fest was going to have MyChem this year, but they said we can't do it, so they've just basically moved everything to next year, and that's going to be in Chicago. But my whole entire thing for that is I'm still here sitting there waiting. I'm like, do I get the 3-day pass or the 1-day pass for that? I still haven't gotten anything for you, because I'm just waiting to see if Rise Against pops up on the bill and what day they pop up. That's all that matters to me.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing them. I don't think I got to watch all their set, but I watched them at Louder Than Life in 2017. It was pretty great.
Yeah, I think I've seen them total 9 times now. Yeah,
9 times. Very cool.
They're my favorite band of all time. I can't get enough of them. And then one thing I actually was able to do was, because especially with all the music venues that are trying to survive right now, the one here in Milwaukee, they have a bunch, over 30 years. They've got a bunch of tour posters, a bunch of like event posters they had bands signed, and they put them up on eBay for auction. And one day I was trying to bid on one that was a show I went to last year that I absolutely loved, but I didn't get it because it ran up to like $250. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go up to that. Then there was a Rise Against one.
Those bids can get intense pretty fast.
Yeah, then there was a Rise Against when I put a bid in there. I was like, I just went up to like when I was the top bid. I think it was like up to $120 some. I'm like, okay, we'll just see what happens. I'm not even I completely forgot about it. And all of a sudden, a couple days later, I get an email. You won, but you still have to pay us. I'm like, shit. Oh, which one is it? And it was the Rise Against when I pretty much like had that thing paid off in the next like 5 seconds. I'm like, give me.
Nice. I tried to do a bid for something, and I don't remember what it was. It might have been actually like an instrument or something. And someone waited till probably literally 1 minute before it ended and got it. It's like, you bastard.
Yeah, it does suck. But one thing you have to think about too is like, if that was going to be their whole entire thing, like they were going to sit in front of their computer and wait until that exact moment and just hit refresh and all of a sudden make sure that they got it. I mean, I kind of got to give them some credit for that they put that much time and effort into making sure that they got that.
Oh, I agree. Well played, for sure. Can't really do anything about it at that point.
No, which reminds me, I'm going to have to make sure I mark down these times all of a sudden 1 minute before and be like, I'm getting it now. Yes. And just leave it at that. Whether it's something as crazy as a poster or just trying to find like an old used cello. I don't know. That's one of my buddies ended up doing that because we got a music store here in Milwaukee, or it was just outside of Milwaukee that I got a bunch of my stuff from, especially like recording equipment, and I found out they were closing this year. I was like, oh man. All of a sudden he told me, he was like, yeah, I went there and bought a bunch of stuff for myself. I'm like, what the heck did you buy? It's like, I bought a new mixer, I bought a new amp, I bought a cello, and I just looked at him like, those don't really sound like they all go together, dude.
Hey,
And
man,
I
if you
just,
got a good deal on them, then why not?
yeah, but this is also my friend who has to wait another half a year before he gets his hurdy-gurdy, so.
Oh, okay.
So when it comes to like just like random instruments, I mean, this guy's got, and he makes his own too. So I'm like, this guy's got everything.
Nice.
Like glad he got some like better recording equipment for cheap too. And I'm like, oh man, maybe I should go down there. And of course, now that I want to go down there and check some things out, so I can get some stuff for cheap, it's like, yeah, I've showed up too late. That's my bad.
It happens.
It happens. Oh well. While they were still around, I got some good stuff from them. I think that was when I first started playing drums. I got the drum kit from there. I got a bunch of drumsticks from there. And I always got like stuff that I absolutely loved. Then,
Oh, good.
yeah, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I started doing this like microphone mixer, everything. Like, yeah, can you guys help me with this stuff? I kind of knew this. They're like, all right, what do you need? I'm like, I'm starting from square one here, guys. You got to help me out. All of a sudden, like, I was there for about 3 hours. They were just running through everything with me. And they're like, okay, so what do you think you need? I'm like, well, I can already tell you it's going to be this. And all of a sudden, within 5 minutes, everything was out in front of me.
Wow. That's pretty cool of them to do that, though.
Yeah, and it was the only thing I've had to get from them for a second time was a different mixer, just because the one that I initially got from them, it was something that worked fine, but then all of a sudden when I got a different software to work off of it, the channels that I was working off, I was putting everything on one channel, which really screwed me over. So I'm like, okay, I need something different. They're like, oh, they're like, okay, you need this little red box. I'm like, okay, is this going to work? All of a sudden, it took me like 2 hours to figure out, okay, how the hell does this thing actually work? And now I've been using it since February. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Good thing I got it in February and not had to try and find this thing in March, because that would have been just hell.
Good point. Very true.
Oh, I don't want to think about that again. We don't want to go back to that again.
No, just keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward, keep getting healthy, and, well, let's eradicate this virus so that all of a sudden we can get back to, you guys can get back to playing live shows, and someone like me can get back to going to live shows and basically spending all my money doing that.
Right? I miss going to shows too, man. Like, especially the festivals and whatnot. I enjoyed going and watching all the other bands just as much as we played, if not more.
Yeah, that's one thing I was like, when I was at Rivefest, I was like, one of my favorite things too was like, okay, before I like check out some other bands and just see what was going on, and just see all the smaller ones that were going, I'm like, okay, this is cool. All right, time to camp out for Rise Against. Let's do this shit.
Nice.
And then, of course, on the stage next to me was on the stage next to them, because after they were done, all of a sudden, okay, who's the headliner? Stage next to us. Okay, who's on? Slayer. This is gonna be good.
Oh wow, it's a change of pace for sure. Right?
Definitely was.
Slayer.
Yeah, this was last year. This is like Slayer's like final tour. This was they're gonna be their last show in the Milwaukee, Chicago area, like basically southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois area. So it's like, yeah, it's a good idea to stay. However, it was kind of really hard to stay in that area, especially because I needed water really badly, and I just I was probably stuck like 100 yards away from the show, so I couldn't really see the show. I couldn't really see what was going on. All I could see was just pyro. That's the best way to describe it. A lot of pyro, and I could feel the heat from where I was, and I was really far away.
I bet, man.
But I'm waiting for music festivals to come back too, because if you guys are at one of the festivals that I end up going to, because I've been talking with a couple of bands about this idea, and I would definitely see if you guys would be down for this. Basically, I'm going to rent a Winnebago and show up at these festivals for like camp out for the couple of days that it's there, have the Winnebago and have it loaded with like water, soda, Gatorade, beer, because, well, it's Wisconsin. Got to drink beer. And,
you have to.
And some hard liquor as well, and basically just invite bands to come hang out for like 10-15 minutes, do like a quick hit interview at the festival. And then also it's like, hey, you guys want to stop by, hang out for a little bit? Yeah, you guys need some water? You guys need some like Gatorade or something? Yeah, I got you covered. You guys want to have a beer together? Yeah, I got that too. Bing, bang, boom. Done. That'd
be cool. We'd be down for that for sure.
Hell yeah. But if you guys are in Europe at that point, make sure you're playing those shows in Europe and kicking ass, because that's the key.
Yes. I mean, I think we were supposed to do Rock USA this last year too. It was supposed to be in July, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on that, I believe. So maybe we'll be on that next year too.
Because it's the same weekend as Rockfest, which is really weird because they're always both the same weekend. Because one's in western Wisconsin, one's in eastern Wisconsin. But a lot of times what happens is like a lot of bands will play one night at Rockfest and the next night at Rock USA, or switch it around however it works. Yeah. So it's kind of cool with that. So it all depends upon it. I guess in July it all depends upon which one I actually end up at.
Yeah.
And then hopefully all of a sudden it's like maybe like for Rockfest, maybe someone has to drop out, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, pick up Joyous Wolf. And all of a sudden if I'm at that one, it's like, oh, I'm at Rock USA, but we're coming to Rockfest. yeah, here's the location of Winnebago. Just come on over, hang out, and we'll have a good time for a little bit. And yeah.
Sounds good to me. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be up for that.
It sounds good. And we're right about to reach that hour mark. And I know you said kind of like an hour, like we'll take it there. And sounds good to me. So as we close this one out, Greg, I just want to give you one last chance to kind of basically like that. What is your closing statement, sir? Of course, because now we're kind of getting that political time with the debates and the presidential election. So what is your closing statement, sir?
I'd say to everyone, take care of each other, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll hopefully be putting out new music in the near or somewhat relatively near future. Just be on the lookout for new music and hopefully tours and shows next year.
Sounds good. And then for all the fans out there, and you guys know I always do this for you. So when it comes to Joyous Wolf, when it comes to following them on anywhere online, when it comes to, finding them on their website, when it comes to buying merch from them, when it comes to streaming their music, I know you guys just want that like one-stop shop where it's like, okay, we just want to find one place where we can find all the links and that's it. And we don't want to have to go search for this stuff because you want someone else to search for you. And that person is me. So if you want to follow Joyous Wolf on all their socials, stream their music on any platform, find their website, buy some merch from them. Just take a look at the description of the podcast episode. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, take a look at the video description because everything is going to be there. One-stop shop, one click away. You guys got no excuse now. And I mean none.
Appreciate it, man.
You're very welcome. And Greg, this was a blast having you on. Thank you for being on. And I always say these are incredibly fun, but it's not a cliche because I always have a great time doing these. Like I could go into one of these like kind of like tired, a little bit groggy, and all of a sudden like 2 minutes in the podcast, I'm like, I'm up, let's do this shit. Because I always have so much fun doing these. And this is no exception. I had so much fun on this one. So thank you for being on, Greg. This was a blast.
Same here, man. It was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
And because I told you about the whole entire Winnebago idea, and I plan on seeing you guys live at some point in 2021, hopefully, maybe it might be in the US, might be in Europe, who the hell knows. But I'm not going to end this with a goodbye just because that seems like, I always say this, seems like it's like, that's it. That's going to be it. That's not it. So I'm going to end this with my classic, see you later.
See you soon.
All right, see you soon, bud. Well, folks, that was my interview with Greg from the band Joyous Wolf. So go check it out right now. We've got all the stuff in the description for the podcast and for the YouTube video as well. All their socials where you can stream all their music. So go stream Odyssey, go stream Mother Rebel, go stream it all right now. Get in with the band right now and look forward to them being out on tour either in Europe or here in the US in 2021. This is incredible. So again, thank you, Greg, for being on the podcast, and for everyone else there, thank you for listening, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, rate, comment on the podcast wherever you can, because hey, whether it's good or bad, it helps me out either way. So if it's good, hey, it helps me get more, publicity and whatnot. If it's bad, it helps get me some more criticism, constructive criticism, hopefully, I would say, so that I know maybe things to try next or things that I could change on, whatever it might be. So please, again, like, subscribe, download, follow, rate, whatever it might be, comment, whatever it might be. Please do that. And that's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching the Chord Progression podcast brought to you by MSOTD Rocks or Rock and Metal Thrive. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes with a big, healthy, and hearty see ya!